The rain fell relentlessly, a constant rhythm that blurred the neon lights of the city. Tyler Perry pulled his hood tighter around his head as he stepped out of his car and into the downpour. He had chosen this little diner, a modest place with peeling paint and a flickering sign, on a whim. It was one of those places that seemed to carry the weight of countless untold stories, a relic from a simpler time. He didn't need fancy tonight. He wanted something real, something grounded. What he got instead was far from it. The door jingled as he stepped inside, the sound barely cutting through the clatter of plates and muffled conversation. The warmth hit him first, a stark contrast to the cold rain outside, but the atmosphere was anything but welcoming. The staff barely glanced in his direction. A waitress standing by the counter caught sight of him, her eyes flicking over his damp hoodie and worn sneakers. She raised an eyebrow, smirked, and turned away, muttering something to the cook behind the counter. Tyler's presence, it seemed, had already been dismissed. He made his way to a corner booth, the vinyl seat squeaking as he slid into it. The menu was already there, laminated and worn, with fingerprints smudging the corners. He picked it up, scanning the options, but his attention was quickly drawn to the staff. They were talking loudly, their laughter cutting through the air. It wasn't the laughter of joy or camaraderie. It was sharper, tinged with derision, and Tyler couldn't help but feel it was aimed at him. "Did you see his shoes?" one of the waitresses said, her voice loud enough to carry. "Looks like he walked here from the other side of town." The cook chuckled, flipping a pancake with a practiced hand. "Yeah, probably couldn't afford the gas money. What do you think he's gonna order? Just a cup of coffee, I bet." Tyler's jaw tightened. He wasn't a man who often let things get under his skin, but there was something about the casual cruelty in their words that struck a chord. It wasn't the first time he'd been underestimated or judged by appearances, but it had been a while since he'd faced it so blatantly. He had built his career, his life, on overcoming this kind of dismissal, but tonight it stung more than he expected. A waitress finally approached his table, her notepad in hand. She didn't bother to hide her disinterest. Her gaze fixed somewhere over his shoulder as she asked, "What'll it be?" Tyler offered her a small smile, trying to bridge the gap. "Just a coffee, please, and maybe a slice of that pie." Her eyes snapped to his face at that, a flicker of surprise breaking through her bored expression. "You sure you can afford both?" she said, her tone half joking, half mocking. For a moment, Tyler said nothing. He simply looked at her, his expression unreadable. Then he nodded. "Yes, I'm sure." She shrugged, scribbled something on her pad, and walked away without another word. Tyler watched her go, his thoughts churning. He didn't want to make a scene, didn't want to call attention to himself. But the blatant disregard for basic decency left a sour taste in his mouth, sharper than the rain-soaked chill he'd walked in with. As he waited for his order, the laughter and whispers continued. He caught snippets of their conversation, their words laced with judgment and assumptions. It was as if they had decided who he was before he'd even spoken a word. The irony wasn't lost on him. Here he was, a man who had spent years creating opportunities and telling stories for people who felt unseen, being treated as if he didn't exist. When the coffee and pie arrived, they were placed on the table with little care. The coffee sloshed in its cup, and the pie's presentation left much to be desired. Tyler didn't complain. He thanked the waitress quietly, earning a cursory nod in return. He took a sip of the coffee, its bitterness matching the mood of the room, and picked at the pie with his fork. His appetite had all but vanished. The door jingled again as another customer entered, a man in a suit with an air of confidence. The staff's demeanor shifted instantly. Smiles appeared, voices softened, and the waitress who had served Tyler practically skipped over to the new arrival. "Welcome, sir. Can I get you started with anything?" she said, her tone dripping with charm. Tyler watched the interaction unfold, a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. It wasn't a smile of amusement but of recognition. He'd seen this play out before in different ways in different places. The deference to wealth, the dismissal of those who didn't fit a certain mold. It was a cycle as old as time, and tonight he was just another cog in the wheel. As he finished his coffee, Tyler reached for his wallet. He placed a few bills on the table, enough to cover the check and a modest tip. Then he stood, pulling his hood back over his head. The staff barely noticed as he made his way to the door, their attention still fixed on the man in the suit. But before he stepped out into the rain, Tyler paused. He turned back, his gaze sweeping over the diner. It wasn't the shabby decor or the mediocre food that stuck with him. It was the people, their attitudes and assumptions that left an impression. They had no idea who he was, no idea what he had built or what he was capable of. And that, perhaps, was their greatest mistake. As the door closed behind him, the rain greeted him once more. Tyler walked to his car, his mind racing. He had come here looking for something simple, something grounding. Instead, he had found a reminder of why he did what he did, why he told the stories he told. And as he drove away, the diner's neon sign fading in his rearview mirror, an idea began to take shape. It wasn't fully formed yet, but it was there, a spark waiting to ignite. The rain continued to fall and the city moved on. But for Tyler Perry, this unassuming diner on the edge of town had just become the starting point of something far bigger than anyone inside could have imagined. The drive home was quiet, the rhythmic sound of raindrops against the windshield the only accompaniment to Tyler's thoughts. The headlights of his car carved through the darkness, illuminating the slick pavement ahead. His mind was not on the road, however, but on the events that had unfolded in the diner. The words, the dismissive glances, the laughter at his expense. All of it replayed in his head like a tape stuck on loop. Yet it wasn't anger he felt. Disappointment, perhaps. Sadness, certainly. But there was also a spark of something else, something deeper, that began to take root in his mind. He reached his home, a quiet sanctuary far removed from the bustling city. The warmth of the space was a stark contrast to the cold reception he had received earlier. Tyler slipped off his damp jacket, letting it fall onto a nearby chair as he moved to the kitchen. A cup of tea felt necessary, something to help him process the thoughts swirling in his head. As the kettle whistled, he leaned against the counter, staring out the window at the rain-soaked night. The world outside seemed to mirror his inner state. Calm on the surface, but beneath, a torrent of emotions churned. Tyler had always been a man of action. His success wasn't built on sitting idly by when faced with challenges. He believed in the power of transformation, in turning pain into purpose. And tonight, as he sipped his tea and let the warmth spread through him, he realized he couldn't simply let the events at the diner go. It wasn't about revenge. It never had been. It was about making a point, about creating change where it was needed most. The next morning, the rain had cleared, leaving the city bathed in a pale golden light. Tyler sat at his desk, his laptop open in front of him. He had already begun researching the diner. It was a family-owned business, he discovered, passed down through generations but now struggling to stay afloat. The owners were an older couple, both in their 60s, who had poured their lives into the place. The staff, on the other hand, were a mix of young men and women, most of them likely working there as a stopgap while pursuing other dreams. Tyler's fingers hovered over the keyboard as he considered his next move. He didn't want to simply buy the diner and fire everyone. That would solve nothing. Instead, he wanted to transform it, to turn it into something that not only served the community but also taught the staff a lesson in humility and compassion. But how? An idea began to form, taking shape slowly but surely. Tyler picked up his phone and made a call to his attorney. The conversation was brief but productive. By the time he hung up, the wheels were already in motion. He would make an offer to buy the diner, but with conditions. The owners would retain a stake in the business, ensuring their livelihood, and the staff would be given the opportunity to stay on, provided they were willing to embrace a new vision for the place. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. Tyler visited the diner again, this time in a more formal capacity. He met with the owners, a kind couple named Margaret and James, who were initially skeptical of his intentions. But as Tyler spoke, explaining his vision for the diner, their skepticism melted away. He shared his plans to revamp the space, to create a welcoming environment for everyone, regardless of their background or appearance. He talked about offering free meals to those in need, about hosting community events, and about turning the diner into a symbol of hope. Margaret's eyes filled with tears as Tyler spoke. "We've always wanted this place to be more than just a restaurant," she said. "But we never had the means to do it." "Now you do," Tyler replied with a reassuring smile. "This is still your diner. I'm just here to help it reach its full potential." The deal was finalized within a week. The staff, however, were not informed of the change in ownership immediately. Tyler wanted to observe them first, to understand their dynamics and see if there was hope for transformation. He spent time in the diner, often sitting in the same corner booth, watching as the staff went about their routines. Some were kind and hardworking, others indifferent, and a few were downright dismissive. One waitress in particular caught his attention. Her name was Sarah, the same waitress who had served him on that first rainy night. She was sharp-tongued and impatient, quick to judge and slow to smile. But Tyler noticed something else about her too. There was a weariness in her eyes, a heaviness in her movements, that hinted at a deeper story. He made a mental note to learn more about her. As the days went on, Tyler's vision for the diner began to take shape in tangible ways. Renovations were planned, the menu was overhauled, and new policies were drafted. But more than the physical changes, he wanted to address the culture of the place. He wanted the staff to see the value in kindness, in treating every customer with dignity and respect. To achieve this, he knew he needed to start from within. He arranged a staff meeting, his first as the new owner. The employees filed in, their expressions ranging from curiosity to apprehension. Sarah was among them, her arms crossed and her brow furrowed. Tyler stood at the front of the room, his demeanor calm but firm. "I'm sure some of you have heard the rumors by now," he began. "Yes, the diner has a new owner. But I want to make one thing clear. I'm not here to tear this place apart. I'm here to build it up, to make it something we can all be proud of." The room was silent, the employees watching him with varying degrees of skepticism. Tyler continued, his voice steady. "I know change can be hard. I know some of you might be resistant, but I also know that this diner has the potential to be so much more than it is right now. And I want all of you to be a part of that transformation." He outlined his plans for the diner, from the community programs to the new training initiatives for the staff. He talked about the importance of creating a welcoming environment, about treating every customer with kindness, no matter who they were or what they looked like. As he spoke, he noticed a shift in the room. Some of the employees seemed intrigued, others hesitant. Sarah, however, remained stoic, her expression unreadable. When he finished, Tyler opened the floor to questions. There were concerns, of course. Would they lose their jobs? Would their roles change? Tyler addressed each question with patience and transparency, assuring them that his goal was not to replace them, but to help them grow. As the meeting ended and the employees began to file out, Sarah lingered. She approached Tyler, her arms still crossed, her gaze unwavering. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her tone challenging. Tyler met her gaze, his expression thoughtful. "Because I've been where you are," he said simply. "And I know what it feels like to be judged, to be underestimated. I want to change that. For you, for this diner, and for this community." For the first time, Sarah's expression softened. She didn't say anything more, but as she walked away, Tyler felt a flicker of hope. Change wouldn't come overnight, but it was coming. And as he stood in the now empty meeting room, he knew that this was only the beginning. The diner was unrecognizable by the time the renovations were complete. What had once been a dim, neglected space now glowed with warmth and vibrancy. The walls were painted a soft, welcoming shade of cream, adorned with artwork and photographs celebrating the local community. Tables and chairs had been replaced with sleek, comfortable furniture, and the flickering neon sign outside had been swapped for a modern, brightly lit marquee that read, "The Community Table." Word about the changes had spread quickly. Locals who had once avoided the diner out of frustration with the poor service and uninviting atmosphere began to trickle back, curious to see the transformation for themselves. Tyler had made good on his promise to create an inclusive space. Every Friday, the diner hosted Pay What You Can nights, offering meals to those in need. During the afternoons, the space was used to hold workshops, from cooking classes to job readiness training, aimed at empowering the community. But as impressive as the physical changes were, Tyler's real focus remained on the people, especially the staff. He had implemented a comprehensive training program, emphasizing teamwork, empathy, and customer service. Each staff member attended workshops on active listening and conflict resolution. Tyler made a point of being present during these sessions, sharing his own stories of struggle and resilience. Slowly but surely, the culture of the diner began to shift. One of the biggest transformations came from Sarah. Initially resistant to the changes, she had gradually started to open up. During one of the workshops, Tyler asked the group to share why they had taken the job at the diner. When it was Sarah's turn, she hesitated, her eyes downcast. "I took this job because I needed to pay the bills," she admitted. "But if I'm being honest, I've always felt stuck here. Like no matter what I do, it'll never be enough." The room was silent as Sarah spoke. Her words carried a weight that everyone could feel. Tyler nodded, his voice gentle as he responded. "Feeling stuck is something I know all too well," he said. "But the thing about being stuck is that it's not permanent. Sometimes all it takes is a shift in perspective, a new opportunity to remind you of what you're capable of." After that day, Sarah began to approach her work with a renewed sense of purpose. She started to take pride in her role, going out of her way to ensure customers felt welcome. Her sharp edges softened, replaced by a warmth that had long been buried under years of frustration and exhaustion. Tyler noticed the change and made sure to acknowledge her efforts, encouraging her to keep growing. The grand reopening of the community table was a moment of celebration. Tyler had invited the entire community to join, and the diner was packed with people of all ages and backgrounds. Margaret and James, the original owners, were given a place of honor at the front of the room, their eyes shining with pride as they looked around at the bustling space. Tyler stood before the crowd, a microphone in hand. He took a moment to take it all in, the laughter, the sense of connection, the energy that filled the room. Then he began to speak. "Thank you all for being here tonight," he said. "This diner has always been more than just a place to grab a meal. It's a part of this community's history, and now it's a part of its future. When I first walked into this place, I saw potential. Not just in the building, but in the people. And tonight, seeing all of you here, I know that potential has been realized." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the room. "The journey to get here hasn't been easy. There were challenges, doubts, and moments of frustration. But what's important is that we didn't let those moments define us. We kept going. We believed in something bigger than ourselves. And that's what this diner stands for. Resilience, hope, and the power of community." The crowd erupted into applause, and Tyler stepped back, letting the moment sink in. As the night went on, he moved through the diner, stopping to talk with customers and staff alike. He listened to their stories, their dreams, their feedback. For Tyler, this wasn't just about creating a successful business. It was about fostering a space where everyone felt seen and valued. One particularly touching moment came when a young boy approached Tyler, clutching a drawing in his small hands. It was a crude but heartfelt depiction of the diner, with Tyler standing outside, a wide smile on his face. "I drew this for you," the boy said shyly. "Thank you for making this place so nice. My mom says we can come here anytime now." Tyler knelt down, taking the drawing with a grateful smile. "Thank you, buddy. This is going up on the wall," he said, motioning to a section of the diner dedicated to community artwork. The boy's face lit up, and Tyler felt a surge of emotion. Moments like these were why he had taken on this project in the first place. As the weeks turned into months, the community table became a beacon in the neighborhood. The staff, once fractured and disengaged, had become a cohesive team. Sarah, in particular, had stepped into a leadership role, mentoring new hires and spearheading initiatives to keep the diner connected to the community. Her transformation was a testament to the power of believing in someone's potential, even when they couldn't see it themselves. The diner's success did not go unnoticed. Local news outlets picked up the story, highlighting the innovative programs and the impact it had on the community. But despite the growing attention, Tyler remained humble, often working behind the scenes to ensure everything ran smoothly. For him, the true reward was seeing the lives that had been touched by the diner's transformation. One evening, as Tyler sat in his favorite corner booth, Sarah approached him with a hesitant smile. "Can I sit?" she asked. "Of course," Tyler said, gesturing to the seat across from him. Sarah took a deep breath before speaking. "I just wanted to say thank you, not just for giving this place a second chance, but for giving me one too. I didn't realize how much I needed it until now." Tyler's expression softened. "You did the work, Sarah. I just gave you the opportunity. And look at what you've done with it. You should be proud of yourself." She nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I am. And I'm proud to be a part of this." As Sarah walked away, Tyler leaned back in his seat, a sense of fulfillment washing over him. The diner had become everything he had envisioned and more. It was proof that even the smallest acts of kindness and belief could ripple outward, creating waves of change. The community table was no longer just a diner. It was a testament to the power of transformation, of turning judgment into compassion, and of building something beautiful from the most unexpected beginnings. And as Tyler looked around at the bustling space, he knew this was only the beginning of its story. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel to support more powerful storytelling like this. And don't stop there. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next video. We'd also love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below to let us know how this story impacted you or what you'd like to see next. Your feedback helps us create meaningful content that connects with you. Thank you for being a part of our community. Your voice matters,